math is hard.
We are back and everyone's angry. Everyone is angry, Paul.
We're never going to convince the people who hate Sonos, and we're never going to change the minds of people who love Sonos. So, I mean, I think look, we cover Microsoft, so we are very familiar. What is that thing behind me? Oh, it's a screen. Like, what is that? Why is that there?
Paul's like, whoa, hey, what's behind?
There's like a ghost face behind me. Is everyone else seeing that? Sorry, I was testing the Apple TV in there. So we'll get to that later. We're very familiar with the whole faux outrage thing, you know, and faux outrage is something that I think we all engage in it to some degree, but I feel like there's so much terrible stuff in life to be truly outraged about that we should reserve our outrage for things that are important, you know. So
yes,
the Sonos thing, in case you're not familiar, is they announced yesterday that they're going to stop supporting some of their oldest devices. And these are mostly smart speakers, but actually some of their early devices were those type of the little boxes that connect to analog speaker equipment because, you know, back in the early days, this is pre-iPhone, you know, people were this is how you get into that market. So these devices were manufactured between 2006 and 2009. And as of May 2020, they're no longer going to be shipping software updates to these devices. That to me seemed, now this is where opinions are going to diverge. Obviously, a lot of people are big Sonos fans. A lot of people who buy that equipment are big Sonos fans. So they start buying more and more equipment. So the way I look at so some people have a mix of equipment in their homes. I understand that. I mean, for sure, I can see that happening. I also have a mix of Sonos equipment in my home. Actually, I have the original gen Sonos 1, you know, :1. And then I have this, actually, they're technically the second generation is Sonos 1.
Yeah, the first
but
one
there are
for
two
Play
generations of that, right?
Yep.
And I have one example of the newest generation. And I bought it because it was the one that came with the extra RAM and processing power because they had a Google Assistant to it. And of course, now I no longer want to use that feature. Yeah. So I understand. But the thing I was saying to Brad earlier was I want you to really think about this. I want you sitting in your home to look around. I'm looking in my office. I have an incredible collection of personal technology. And I want you to point to that one thing that dates back to 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009. That is a computer display, a computer, a phone, a router, a peripheral of any kind, whatever, that you still use today, like every day. And that you're outraged that the maker of that digital device is no longer going to ship software updates. Like I'm not saying that there aren't examples. Like one I thought I did think of, I actually saw someone at the gym the other day with a little, what was it called? The iPod Shuffle on like a lanyard or something, or maybe it was just clipped to their shirt. Yeah, with a little tiny thing, you know, little square. And I was like, wow, but that's notable because you really don't see those anymore, right? And there's an example of a device that dates back to that time. But by the way, not supported by software updates anymore, right? Doesn't mean it doesn't work, and these speakers will still work, you know. But man, the outrage over this is crazy. I saw it in the comments about the article. I also woke up this morning as part of my daily not ritual is the wrong word, but not sacrificing goats or anything, but as part of my, you know, whatever, everything I do every day. I saw a news story in, I think, Reuters, where it was, you know, people on Twitter boycott, you know, Sonos, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I mean, really? Like, I mean, it seems kind of crazy to me.
So the one thing that I do agree with the outrage, which Sonos has actually clarified on Twitter, at least they're looking into it, is that if you had one of these outdated products on your Sonos network, nothing was getting updated. And so
here's the defense of that, though, and you know why they did this.
Oh,
right?
I know exactly why they did it.
The idea is you could have 2 or more generations of this equipment. It's because this thing creates its own network. They speak to each other. They work together. You're playing music, and if the software version is different across the different things, they'll stop working together. So this is their solution to now it works. I mean, the solution for you as a consumer is to say, well, I have this one old Sonos Connect or a whatever it is, and get rid of it. I mean, I know. This is look. These things are less dispensable. And let me make sure I understand. Let me make sure I'm saying that clearly. Brad just bought a TV. People go to Costco and they buy TVs for $300 or $400. They use them for a year or two. They breaks and they just throw them away. These things are far less dispensable than a TV. I know that replacing a Sonos speaker is not inexpensive, but and I know that people, Brad's car, I think Brad, you said your car was 2008, 2009, something like that. My daughter's car, the one I was driving previously, is 2007, I think. You don't see a lot of those cars on the road, especially in this part of the country. Doesn't mean they don't exist.
Yep.
And these are, increasingly as you go back in time, are more mechanical than computerized. But this is not. I don't know. It seems to me like someone who has invested thousands of dollars in Sonos equipment is the type of person who would typically want to be on the leading edge of stuff. And supporting a product like that for 10 years or 13 years or 14 or whatever it is, 15 up to 15 years is kind of incredible for personal technology. It's kind of incredible.
Yeah. So the other thing Sonos said they're looking into is how they can actually make it so that you could have your old equipment still operate with your new equipment. I don't know why they wouldn't include that in their post. I'm guessing that the reaction was a little bit stronger than they were anticipating. Because
it was stronger than I thought was reasonable for sure. And I you have to think about this stuff from a marketing perspective if you're that company. But one thing, maybe you know the answer to this, because now that I had kind of walked away from the Sonos ecosystem, probably mostly for cost reasons, because I was able to throw a $35 Chromecast audio dongle and $100 pair of speakers and get sound quality that I still feel is incredible. And now there are problems with that or whatever. But in the interim, what's happened is my daughter basically is using most of the speakers. And of course, like when I bring up the Sonos app, what I see is I see her stuff and I see my stuff. And I kind of wanted to see my stuff. And so I suppose what I could do is just have her create her own account, and then those things won't be on the same thing. But I was also wondering, like for this, like whether or not Sonos supported any notion of zones, or I don't know what you would call it, like different networks. Like in other words, I do own multiple Sonos equipment, but some of it's upstairs and some of it's downstairs. And some of it's old and some of it's new, however you want to divide it. And say, maybe the old stuff is on its own little network and those things do their own thing. And then the new stuff is down here and it does its own thing. Do you know if there's anything like that?
The best option you're going to have is just to create groups. So you can group up your daughter's speakers, and then you can group up your speakers, and then they will play different things.
Well, they are okay. They're already grouped like that. But I still see them. Like in other words,
you're not going to be able to. I don't think.
I think for me, what I'm going to have to do is have her. She'll be so happy to do this. Set up a her own account for Sonos, and then I that way what I'll only see will be the speakers that I'm controlling and using. Because honestly, it is a little weird. Like it's the one thing I've noticed. Like let me just bring this thing up. It's funny because like I was testing some stuff last night, and when you look at like you can see like where is this thing, if I could just find it, like the rooms, it's like I can see what she was playing, and I can see what I was playing on different speaker sets or whatever groups. Rooms, I guess rooms is what they're called. It's not a big deal, but I mean I'd rather not even see that. Like I wish it wasn't there,
I just kind of wish she wasn't around.
I wish she would she just go to college? Yes. Take your damn speakers with you.
Just walking on out with.
She's gonna have like a 150 square foot dorm room shared with another human being with like 5 Sonos speakers in it.
Gotta do it. Yeah. So it's not gonna calm the rage by any chance or at all. But
no, there's no way. But I was shocked is the wrong word. I think we throw these words around too lightly. But I was going through the comments this morning because I'm always looking for spam and everything, and I was like, geez, like guys, like seriously. I mean, and you can see in like some cases they're like really specific. Like I bought a Sonos Connect back in 2010, and I've been a big fan of this company, and like now it's like F these guys, and it's like wow.
Yeah.
Like 2010. Could I point to, I don't even have a stapler that old. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm literally trying to think of something. I guess if you bought a printer,
Yeah.
maybe that would still work. But how would you connect to a 10 or 15-year-old printer? Was it USB 2 or something, or one? I don't even. I guess 2 at that point. I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand. This it's such a weird.
The people who are probably getting burned by this the most are the people that found, let's just say, first generation Play 5, like 3 years after they stopped making them, and they got a good deal on it, and then they only got 3 years of use out of it or something.
But you have to kind of think. I don't know. Yeah. The only thing I can equate to this that I think is a legitimate gripe is, and they just extended this a little bit, but Google has a very limited support life cycle for Chromebooks, Chrome OS. And you could have someone who would use a device for 3 or 4 years, maybe some kid in school or something, and then they sell it used on Craigslist or something. And this is a problem because of income and stuff. Like someone who's buying like a used Chromebook is probably lower income, and they get this thing, and it's literally like either not supported immediately or is only going to be supported for 3 more months. Like it's not supported for whatever the time frame was, 5 years or something. For them, it's supported from the time it was manufactured. So it could sit on a shelf for a year. The year goes by, they lost a year. Someone buys it. Like that's actually a huge problem. Like that I understand. The Sonos one, I don't know. I think they've done. You know this. I mean, and I think people listening is gonna. There's a microprocessor. There's RAM. There's whatever processing that's occurring there. Those things are finite. I mean, at some point, they're just not going to work. Between the original version of the Sonos One, which is really the second gen, and the time they had a Google Assistant support, they had to bump up the specs. Like that only happened in like a year. That's how big of a jump that was, and the aspirations that they have as a company, which I don't necessarily agree with in every way, but when they want to add assistants and all this kind of crap, is going to require ever more processing, et cetera. A lot of that old stuff's not going to work in that, and I don't know, like that's just normal technical obsolescence. You wouldn't want to use a phone that was made that year, or a PC, or
I think people get caught up too. They look at saying, I bought these speakers in 1972 and that amplifier in 71, and they still work. But this is when you connect things to the internet.
My parents' washing machine is probably the one they had when they were, when I was still a kid living in that house. I'm sure that still works. The one that I buy will be dead in 3 years. Like that is, the way of things. There's no doubt about it. We have this ancient refrigerator that we hate in here, but it works, and you're not going to replace a working fridge, obviously, unless it's like, a serious issue. But I mean, look, we all know this. Everyone gets that, but these things, I think their support for their devices is laudable. I am getting the exact opposite reaction to this that a lot of people seem to be getting. I think they've done a great job supporting their stuff. Nothing is supported like that. What's the oldest iPhone that gets iOS 13? What's the oldest one? Do you even know?
Yeah,
5, 6, probably 6.
Probably 6, I think. Who knows?
Well, what year did that come out? 2000. It would have been 2014, 5 years ago. I guess 6 years ago. No, well, 5 from when the time it came out. That's 1/3 the time that Sonos supported these things. I think it's incredible. And I know some people are going to be on the receiving end of whatever. But.
Well, you're going to get some hate mail, but that's fine.
Well, I mean, am I wrong? I mean,
no. I mean, there's gonna.
I know
no matter
I'm
what
not
you
going to
say, people are going to be angry.
Yeah.
There's going to be that.
Well, but by the way, the faux outrage part of that is a lot of the people who are angry don't even have Sonos equipment.
Yeah.
Like they're just online looking for, like, the little pit bulls looking for something to be angry. I mean, Microsoft put an ad in Word. Like, I mean, we're just like, we're like little rabid animals. Like, have you seen the ad in WordPad? Do you even use WordPad? What are we talking about? Look, is it dumb that Microsoft put an ad in WordPad? Yeah. Who uses WordPad? Who gives a, like, what are you talking about? This thing must date back to I don't know.
That's why I exclusively use PaulPad. whatever.
Pad, that will be my next thing. .NET WordPad. I don't know. It just seems. I just hate to see this kind of thing.
The other thing that happened late last night, conveniently, because nothing happens when I'm,
Right.
it couldn't happen at
Normal working
12:30.
hours.
Is there's an employee at Microsoft who's probably about to have a very bad day when he goes into the office. The back of his Xbox Series X that he's a part of the take home program clearly showed up on the internet, full
Right.
serial number and everything, which is
Sure.
extremely traceable. And yeah,
Oh, really? Oh, yikes. Okay.
yeah.
Well,
So,
that what you say to that is, I had a party, and there were a lot of people there, and I don't know.
yeah, it's
Could have been anybody.
like I really don't think that this individual like took this picture and then just posted it on the internet. There's
I bet maybe it was one of the units that went to a developer, like a publishing company or something. Or do you actually think it was like a Microsoft guy?
We'll see.
Yeah.
But either way, like the couple things, like it could have been the person's kid maybe, or like the kid took a picture of it and shared it with their friends, and their friends sent it to somebody, and then whatever. It doesn't really matter at this point. It's all out there and exposed, and it's exactly what I told. It's right.
Yeah, I see some of the comments on your stories, of course, because I go through the comments, and one of the guys had said something like, Microsoft wanted this to happen or whatever.
No,
It's like, what are
not
you talking about?
not this.
No.
They're not going to plan a leak with a picture of their prized Xbox Jewel, like covered in like what appears to be like dog hair.
No, they want to control that conversation.
Yes. So, anyways, and then also the German government is paying $900,000 for extended Windows 7 support.
So what?
Yeah.
Good. I mean, that's nothing.
Well, this is probably going to spur up another conversation, because wasn't it one of the cities in Germany that switched over to Linux for a while and then they came back?
It worked out great.
Yeah.
How's Linux and OpenOffice working for you guys? Oh, it didn't work at all. Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. You got anything else for today, Paul? Any other audio thoughts?
It's just no, I don't have it. I don't have enough to write this up. Last night or yesterday at some point, I updated. I have for some reason I have two Apple TV 4Ks. I'm not using one of them, and I was going to use that to connect to the speakers to try that.
Mm-hmm.
But in going through my little bin of obsolete technology, I found an Apple TV HD, which is exactly the same. Well, it probably is a different processor, but for purposes of music streaming, it's AirPlay 2 compatible, et cetera. So I updated that to 13, which is why the screen's here, and then unplugged it and put it out in the sunroom. And it's kind of weird. Aside from requiring like a ton of cables, it's kind of weird how much extra cabling all this requires. This is not a very good dongle for audio streaming, at least not in my experience so far. Like we tried to listen to music last night, and the two problems we had was that sometimes the music would just stop. We didn't know. I was using Apple Music on an iPhone, going to an Apple TV, and it would just stop. After a while, I just gave up trying to restart it. And then one time it started playing through the phone after a few minutes. I was like, what the hell is this? And then I heard something I have never heard. I mean, since I was like a kid, maybe. And this is a very hard thing to describe because it's so non-digital. But there was like I can only describe it as like an analog style audio glitch where it actually sounded like noise. So music was playing, and then all of a sudden it was like it was like a radio going out of what do you call it? Reception. Like I was like, what is that? Like where does that come from? So I don't know. I'm not gonna just be a jerk about it and write it up this morning. I need to test it more, but I was kind of surprised by how terrible that was. So if anyone out there uses AirPlay 2, specifically with an Apple TV, let me know, because maybe I'm missing something, but it didn't. It worked very poorly. It was worse than Bluetooth. Like it was terrible.
Wow,
that's
a
great,
criticism
actually.
right there.
Yeah. Other than the auto connect problem with Bluetooth, and just as an aside, a couple of mornings ago, before I took the Bluetooth adapter off of those speakers, I went, I go into the sunroom every morning and I read the paper on an iPad. And of course, the paper's the New York Times, so it's terrible. And it has like videos you can't play, and it's the worst app on earth. But I clicked through to it was like an ad on Twitter, not an ad, a video. And when I played the video, of course, it connected to the speakers and started playing the audio through the speakers, not through the iPad. And I was like, oh, God, I hate Bluetooth. The Bluetooth is just it's terrible.
Yep. And so speaking of terrible things, folks, that wraps it up for today. We'll catch all of you right back here tomorrow.
Yeah.